today we are here to discuss about big data. Okay, mainly the three aspects of big data, that is analytic, modeling, and application. Today, for first lecture, I will explain all the introduction part of this analytic and then modeling and then some of the applications by using Python language. Okay, then we'll go in the subsequent lecture in detail. So what is the complete course content? The course content, whatever introduction to big data and big data modeling and management system. That means how, what is big data, what are the varieties of big data, and then how to store and model all those big data in your system. Those things are already been covered by your last two or three lectures, 3 or 4 lectures, whatever how far I know. And the third part, that is introduction to technology of big data, that will be starting from next lecture. Okay, for a couple of lecture. So next one is unstructured data. So after structured, the complexity increases, that is semi-structured. Then the complexity little bit more increased, then that is quasi-structured. And when the complexity is high, a huge complexity increased in the structured data, then that is called unstructured data. There will be no structure, that is image, video, text, PDF, all these contents together. Okay, so these are the complexity. When the complexity increases, the structure of the data changes like this way. Now there is an x and y axis. Okay, on the y axis, the vertical axis can be considered as the value, the amount of information contained in that data, and the horizontal axis, the x axis, considered as complexity, like the complexity I have explained earlier in the last slide. So if at the beginning, when the complexity is very low and the value of the data is not so high, not so rich, then we use descriptive data analysis. This is one type of data analytics, descriptive data analytics. What is the task of this, or what is the aim of this kind of analytics? Is to find out what happened in the data. That means you have set of data. Now what is that data tells you what happened in that previous in the history, that will be find out by this descriptive analytic part. Okay, so in the left hand side, that is graph, chart, report, dashboard, these are the technology available for doing this kind of data analytics. Okay, and the right hand side, that is Excel, is a kind of tool which you can use for this kind of descriptive analytics job. So that means there are a graph, chart, report can be used to do this kind of analytics, and Excel is one tool that can be used for doing this analytics. When the data value have little bit richer and the complexity is little bit higher, then we do diagnostic analytics. That means we diagnose on the data, diagnose whatever we have generated, whatever we have come to know from the descriptive analytics, that is called diagnostic analytics. And what is the aim of this analytics? Is to find out why did it happen. Whatever you come to know that is happened, that has happened, you have now your aim is to find out why that happened, the reason behind that happened. Okay, so that is the diagnostic analysis. The diagnosis, the happening things or happened things. And for that you have data discovery tool, data mining tool, bi means business intelligence tool, drilling down tool, and specifically SPSS, Minitab are few of them which we can call as a diagnostic analysis tool. Okay, so next is predictive analytics. What is this? Predictive analytics is when little bit of complexity increased and also the value is much richer than the previous one, then we use predictive analytics, and the aim of this is to find out what is likely to happen, that means in the future. Okay, we will try to know at the current moment what is going to happen in future. Okay, so you know what happened, you know why that happened. Now your aim is to find out what is going to happen, and for that you have data mining tool, machine learning tool, pattern recognition, AI tool, and for techniques are available, and MATLAB, R, Python, OpenNN, TensorFlow, all these tools are available for doing this predictive analytics job. The last type of data analytics, that is called prescriptive analytics. That means giving you some prescription on what is going to happen, and from that prescription you can protect or you can encourage, either protect or encourage depending on the situation. It's not always protecting yourself from that happening, also how you can encourage to happen those things in a better way. So both of these, encouraging and protecting yourself from that happening, can be done in this prescriptive analytics job. Okay, so descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, and predictive analytics at the end, that is the prescriptive analytics. And for this prescriptive analytics, we know that what do I need to do to make it happen, whatever you have predicted in the by the predictive analytics, that can be done in the prescriptive analytics. And there are technology, all this technology whatever you have used for descriptive, diagnostic, and predictive, okay, that can be used for prescriptive part. And the tool like SPSS Modeler, IBM Watson, K9 are the tool which can be used for doing this prescriptive analytics. Okay, so this is the these are the four types of descriptive analytics. There are very recent like more detailed classifications are available, but I am not going into the detail of all those. But these are the four primary or major analysis type. Now, if you go diagonally along this analysis, then you see this descriptive and predict diagnosis are actually giving you the past data. That's why it is called hindsight data analysis. And the predictive analysis give you the insight of the data for future perspective, from the future perspective. So that is called insight of the data. And prescriptive, what you need to do in future. So that's why that is foresight of the data analysis. So this insight, and foresight of the data analysis, and when you call it at what time, that is actually explained here. Okay, now there is another way of looking at this analytics job, and that is called exploratory data analysis. Exploratory part, that means exploring the data by using some techniques. So what we do here, descriptive and diagnosis, so these two techniques are used for exploring the data. So that's why we call these two techniques are exploratory data analytics. And predictive and prescriptives are called confirmatory. So whatever happened, now you confirm that by using some techniques, and you want to protect or you want to encourage that, or confirming the situations by using this analysis. That's why this is called confirmatory data analysis. Okay, and this third part, that is under this exploratory, the diagnosis part will explain why that happened, right? So that's why it is called explanatory data analysis. So these are the three major categories of the data analysis. The tool, this is an overview of different data analytics tool available for different data science job. That means data collection, data cleaning, exploration, data analysis, and other tools are available under each of these category, which you can use for doing operations under each of these tasks. Okay, some of these things will be explained in the subsequent lecture one by one. Now the detail of descriptive and predictive will be explained later on. Okay, one by one. First descriptive analytics, and then their techniques and their modeling and all these things, and then the predictive analytics and their modeling and techniques after that. But before going into that detail of all those things, you have to know the modeling part first. That means what is a model is. You don't if you don't have any idea, then I will give you some explanation of what is modeling and how you can build a model, how you can use that model for your data analysis job. So that's the part here ends for my first topic, that is the first portion of the data analytics, which is called analytics job, and then the modeling will come next lecture, that is where I will explain you the introduction part of the modeling. Okay, so then that fall under this third content of the third issue of these contents. Okay, so what we know actually model is like this, right? But I'm not going to teach you regarding this modeling techniques and modeling procedure of this. This is the model term widely used in our daily life or in our understanding. There is another model we use to understand the different variation of these technologies, right? So how we use this model term in this case? Say for example, you want to buy a laptop or desktop or palm top. Why? So consider a situation, this COVID-19 situation. Okay, this COVID-19 situation arises, an emergency situation arises in our life, and suddenly the physical lecturing has been stopped. Okay, so what is the problem is now that attending the classes at university, that is the problem. So what is the solution? Solution is having an online lecturing. And what is the next solution? Having an online lecture is having some digital devices like laptop, desktop, palm top, or a tablet or a mobile or every like this. So looking at the solution of a problem of online lecturing, now you have to buy a device which suits your requirement. What is the requirement? Requirement is attending an online lecturing. Okay, and at the same time you may have to do some other job, like in this case, in case of big data course, you may have to like have to run the program in your own system or in Google Colab or somewhere else. So you have to understand this requirement first. So first thing what you have to do, you have to choose based on your requirement that which product you want to buy, either mobile, laptop or desktop. Okay, then you have to decide that which company product you will buy for that particular item, that laptop, desktop or palm top. Or say for example, I considered that you want to buy laptop, and now the next thing is you have to decide the which company product you want to buy. That means Mac, HP, Dell, Samsung, or whatever it is. Okay, so after deciding that, say for example, you have decided that you will buy a Mac or HP laptop. Okay, now the next thing is that you have to consider that choosing a product, that what kind of software you want to or you are going to install in that particular system. That whether your requirement is just typing things or writing a mail or installing some heavy software for deep learning. All these things you have to consider to buy a product. Okay, or to buy a model of that particular thing. So the requirement of software or technologies, that is another concern for choosing a particular model. Another thing is hardware technology. Next, depending on the software you choose, that what kind of software you are going to install or you are going to use, depending on that, you have to choose that whether you are going to buy an i3, i5, i7 or a Mac laptop with a different processor, or you need 4 GB, 8 GB or 16 GB RAM, or you need 500 GB or 1 terabyte hard disk. Depending on that, depending on the requirement of your task, you have to choose. Say for example, you want to store the online lecture in your system, so you need high connection. You need you need a higher backup storage system, right? So all depending on all these things, you now choose a model. Okay. Similarly, now come to machine learning model. When I'm talking about a machine learning model, you have to think that for which job you are going to develop the model, what is the application, what are the query you want to answer, you are going to answer from that machine learning model, what are the technology are available for you, like you don't know all the technology available in the world, you don't know all the tool, or you have not used all the tools, so which tool are available to you, which technology are available to you, what languages like Python, Java, R, or C, C++, there are many other languages, which language you know. So depending on that, you have to choose a particular model, and what algorithm under that particular task, whatever you are going to do, uh, fits your requirement, that we have to choose. So all these things together will give you an idea of machine learning model, that whatever you are going to build or whatever you want to build. Okay. So what is this? Say for example, when you have decided that this kind of laptop you want to buy, and you went to a shop and you tell your requirement that I want this kind of laptop. What happened at the end? The shop owner will give you a box containing the laptop, right? So that means similarly here, the ultimate product of machine learning model is a black box, where the like the in case of laptop, in the box you have a laptop, similarly here in the box you have model. Okay, in that box when you open it, your model will come up and you can do your operation. So a model is an artifact created by a training process. Okay. So in a very few sentences, if I try to explain a machine learning model, then I can say the output of a machine learning algorithm, the output is a model of a machine learning algorithm if we run that model into an algorithm into a data. So which represents what was learned by the machine learning algorithm, and that is saved after running a machine learning algorithm on the training data. So a machine learning model is equal to an algorithm plus the data plus the output by the algorithm. All three together create a machine learning model. Say for example, a linear regression. You don't have to understand that. If you don't know linear regression, that is fine for the moment. Just understand there is an algorithm called linear regression. You apply that linear regression algorithm into a set of data, and what that algorithm will give you, a vector coefficient. Okay, a vector. Okay, and that vector is actually a model for that particular data. If that, say for example, I run that linear regression model into a student data, then that vector can, or the model can be used for that particular student data only. That cannot be used for the teacher data or the teaching data or the other staff data, because the nature of the data changes, so the model will also change. For example, a decision tree algorithm which gives you a tree structure to decide whether one is to classify some data. So the output of the decision tree algorithm is a tree. Okay. So when you apply an algorithm into a data set, then the algorithm will generate a tree, and when the new data will come, and you use that new data into the tree, then the tree will classify that whether based on the branches, that what is the class of that new data. Okay. Now a tree or a decision tree for a market basket analysis, where you try to understand the market data, cannot be used for telecommunication data, because the nature of the data is different, the value of the data is different. So a model also changes depending on the data, depending on the algorithm, depending on the parameter you are used in for creating the model. So similarly, there is another example, the neural network backpropagation gradient descent algorithm together gives you a graph. So first one gives you a vector, second one gives you a tree, third one gives you a graph. So different algorithm gives you different representations of the different types of model. Okay, we will come to know one by one all most of these things later on. So is this the end of the story of machine learning model? No. To create a model, you have different phases. What are the phases? First one is to discovery. That means remember that COVID-19 project example I have given. You COVID-19 situation arises and the lockdown happened. Your physical lecturing stopped. So the problem created. Now next thing is having a solution, designing a solution. So when the physical lecturing stops, what is the next solution to you? Is the online lecturing. So you have a solution for online lecturing, and for online lecturing you need a laptop or a mobile or a tablet or a electronic device which have visual capability, which can connect two person. So that is the solution you have for a particular problem. So similarly, in case of machine learning problem, you have to define a problem, and then for that particular problem you have to design a solution. Okay, the next thing is development. So for example, in case of COVID-19 example, you feel that you need a laptop. Now say consider there is no laptop is available in the world. So what you have to do? You have to design a device which called laptop, which can solve your requirement. In case of machine learning problem, you have to develop a model which can solve your problem. Okay, and during the creation of the solution, you have you have to test whether that gives you proper output of as per your requirement or not. So that is called validation and testing. I will come into the detail later on. I have a good picture to explain that. Okay, so you have to test that whether your model uh, fits for your requirement or not. So remember the term I am telling you every time, it's fitting, whether it fits for your requirement. Okay, I will show you why it is fitting. I am using this term when I will show you some example in coding. Next thing is when you have, say for example, when you have a model or a laptop, next thing is to distribute that model or that laptop to the customer, okay, who will use that product, and that is called the deployment of a solution. And say for example you purchase the laptop, and the laptop is not a in a good quality, it's giving different problems. Sometimes it is motherboard problem, sometimes it's battery problem, sometimes other problems are giving it to you. So that checking, that evaluation of that model will be done by using some feedback, and that is called the maintenance of your laptop, or in this case maintenance of your model. So understand, if you try to understand the machine learning model side by side with that COVID-19 example, then it will be much clearer to you that what a model actually, how a model can be developed. So first define a problem, then design a solution, then implement the solution, then check and test of that solution, then you distribute it to the normal person or the user, and then after distributing you have to take care. Say for example in case of machine learning problem, your model don't allow a missing value. So when someone uses a data containing missing value in that model will not work, of course, right? So the feedback will come to you that your model is not going to handle a missing data, or is not able to handle missing data. So now you will update your model based on the feedback given by the customer, and then you will provide another model to that same customer, that now you use this model which can be able to handle missing data problem. So that's the evaluation and maintenance of the model. Okay, so this is the life cycle of this model development life cycle. That means how a model has been developed or is developed, a discovery process, then a design process, then development, and then validation. So design and validation, sorry, development and validation go in a round manner. First validate and then update again, when again validate and then again update. In this way it goes on, and when it is ready, the model has been generated and it will be deployed somewhere for general purpose use. And on during that use, the evaluation will be done, and then based on the feedback on this evaluation, a maintenance will be done on this model, and it will be go on and round manner. Okay, so this part, the right hand part is called the development of the model, and left hand part is called the deployment of the model. So deployment is deployment, evaluation and maintenance together, and development is discovery, design, development and validation. Yeah, next thing is deployment of the product. Deployment and maintenance together is called production of a machine learning model. Okay, so although this production is not part of our course here, but this is an important topic also. So production includes deployment and maintenance of a machine learning model. Remember that right left hand part of the last slide. So in particular, if you see the deployment or the production phases, production phase consists of these 4 items: deployment, evaluation, monitoring and management. So now this evaluation is actually the evaluation when it is deployed. Okay, and the matrix used with the prediction model can be can help, the matrix can help in the prediction model to evaluate the product. Okay, now this evaluation in case of machine learning model done in 2 times, one in offline mode, another one is online mode. Offline mode means when the model is in the development phase. Okay, that time you use the historical data, okay, on the model. Fine. So this historical data actually divided into 2 parts. One is called test part, another one is called training part. Okay, the training part is used to train the model and test part is used to test the model. During the training phase, that means with the training part of the historical data, when you are using for training a model, that is called validation. And when you are using the test part of the historical data for checking the trained model, that is called testing. So this offline evaluation is of 2 types: validation and testing. Validation is with training part of the historical data, and test part of the historical data is called testing. And this, in case of online evaluation, you use live data. Live data is coming on your deployed model, and the checking is done to whether the model is working properly or not. So that is the live data for online model. Now the parameters, so see here, evaluation is done by using my model and the matrix. Okay, so this matrix term or the part for offline evaluation is of 2 types: one metric for the model, another metric for the application. But in case of online evaluation, you don't have any place to use your model evaluation, but how the model is going to apply in your data, that means the business intelligence matrix has been used only in this case. So online evaluation use only business matrix, offline evaluation use that analytic matrix and the business matrix. Okay, in both time, in both validation and testing, it is used that both type of matrices for the offline evaluation, but in case of online evaluation you use only BI matrix. How this model is going to affect in your business, that is going to tell by this business matrix. Whether, so here this online evaluation only done for this purpose. Okay. So next, when you develop a model, like the whole life cycle of the model, you have several phases: design, development, and deployment, and there are many internal phases are also there. Similarly, for development of the model, there are different phases. What are those phases? Point 1, collecting the data. That means for you want to say, for example, you want to work on COVID-19 data. So first you have to collect the data from the field. That means either from the hospital or from the laboratory, or or from different places where this data are available. Then you have to prepare the data set so that you can use it. The way you collect the data is not possible to use for the machine learning model. So the next thing, you have to prepare it. Prepare includes different phases. I think that has been explained in the previous lectures, that how this preparation has been done. Next part is choosing the algorithm. Now you have to choose that what kind of algorithm you are going to use for your purpose, that whether you want to classify it, or whether you want to cluster it, whether you want to generate some rule from the data. Based on that, you have to choose an algorithm, okay, or a model in general. Then you have to run the algorithm on the prepared and collected and prepared data, and that is called the training of that model. Okay, that is called the validation part. Okay, and when the validation of the model is completed, you have to do the parameter tuning. That means the testing part for the betterment of the model. Okay, so see, the validation and testing is a separate phases here. Next is run the algorithm again. So see here, at step 4, one running and the validation check, and step 7 is another running and the testing phase, and step 6. So these 4, 5 and 6 steps done in a repeated manner till the model has not been given a good output by the model. And then when the model is giving a good output, or the required output for your purpose, then the model is created and model is developed. Fine. So, and then you have to deploy that model. So development part is having this, all these 7 or 8 phases, and there are different softwares are available for design and development. Basically C++, Java, all these things can be also used for development, but nowadays this R and Python are very good for product development, and others, all these languages are good for production development. That means the production of the system, production deployment. Python is such language which is good for development of the model and deployment of the model. And this left hand part is actually called the software job. That's why it's done by the software engineer. And the right hand part, that is developing a model, is a data scientist job. So data scientists create a model, hand it over to the software engineer. Software engineer gives or use this model for the deployment and for general purpose use. Okay, so this left hand part is called model development, and right hand part, left hand part is called model deployment, and right hand part is called the model development. Okay, now the development and deployment of the model can be discussed on later time in detail. Although development will be explained in detail, but deployment I will try to show you if time permits, that how a model after the development can be deployed in a system on a web service, so that anybody on the web can use your model and test it, right? So the next thing is, now first go into the detail of descriptive analytic techniques and the detail of the predictive analytic techniques one by one. So this ends here for the modeling part. So if you see the title slide here, The analytics and modeling part is completed. Now the application part. For this application, I will show you with some coding. Okay, yeah. So see in the left hand part here, there is a scikit-learn, there is NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, TensorFlow, SciPy, and the differences and similarities between them, Keras and Jupyter Notebook. Some very basic things I will tell you regarding this all these tools and techniques available. So what is this scikit-learn? Scikit-learn is a package, okay, which you can use for doing machine learning job. Okay, just everybody to open your Google Colab and try to connect. You know how to connect it, right? From this place, okay, you can connect. So I am connecting it. So I will request all of you to connect to your Google Colab. Everybody to open your Google Colab just to make sure that all these things are running, or all the program whatever you will use in future can run your system or not. Okay. So just a checking purpose, you don't have to code many things today, just a few lines to check it. Okay. So first thing you can do is pip install scikit-learn. That means it will install a scikit-learn which is in your Google Colab session. Okay, so for example, if you click it, then it will say that it is already installed. Just check whether this thing is installed in your system or not. If it is not, to check it, you can do this, write imports scikit-learn or sklearn and print the sklearn dot hyphen version hyphen. If you type this code, then it will show you the version of the scikit-learn installed in your system. Like this here, I have 0.22.2. post 1. So this things is installed in my system. Now if I go to the API of scikit-learn, okay, so what I will see, so see here in the API reference, in the left hand part there are different libraries and packages are available, and the modules are available. Under that module, different functions, methods and variables are available. You can use them for your experiment. Say for example here, just see this one, sklearn.cluster.class colon clustering. That means in sklearn there is a package called cluster. Under this cluster, if you click, then these classes are available, or this under this class there are methods which can do a specific job. Say for example, there is k-mean, which so there is k-mean which can be used for doing k-mean clustering. Okay, so if you click on the k-mean, so it will go to this page. Okay, so here you see, so I move this part in this place. So there are different parameters are available, and the meaning of all these parameters are available here. So if you want to know more in detail about the k-mean implementation, you read all these things line by line. You will come to know different meaning of the parameters, okay, and the default values of these parameters. If you want to change the default value, then you have to change it manually. Else, you whatever you will use by default will be used this default value. Okay. Now these are the return types by the method. If you use this k-mean clustering, then it will give you this output: inertia, number of iteration run, label, and the cluster centers, all these things. So if you run k-mean clustering, and if you want to know the centers, then you can use cluster center. If you want to know the inertia of the clustering, then you can use this inertia variable at the output. You want to know the level, you can use this level variable. Okay, number of iteration used, you can use this number of iterations. So this way you any method in available in the library you can use in detail, because I am showing this one because all the libraries and methods are not possible to explain during these lectures. So I will show you very few of them, like this k-mean clustering, the hierarchical clustering, and few more, but not all. So how you can explore more? So that's the way you can look at the method. That's the variable a method accepts. Okay, and that's the output of the method generates. Okay, there are many other different methods are available under that fit. So see here, fitting, I said that one clustering model, how you can use the tell a model that it fits for that problem or not, that can be analyzed by this fit or fit predict. Okay, and there is a predict. So this fit and predict can be has been combined together in this fit predict function. So if you want to use at a time this fit and predict, so fit predict is there. If you want to use one by one, so first check whether it is fitting for the model or not, use this, then you can predict some new sample on that model, but for that you can use predict. But at the same time, if you want to do the same thing, use fit predict. So there are all these methods similar, some methods are available for doing some job. Okay, so that you can we will check later on in detail, how much possible. Next, okay, I have clicked on this clustering and then show you something. Now see, there is an example, you don't have to type it. Okay, just see. So there is a k-mean clustering has been implemented here. Okay, if I run this model, what it will give, it will give you a nice graph with different colors. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, so 8 different colors representing 8 different clusters. So say for example, there is I told you that there will be different parameters for doing that, for doing these things. So here, if I delete this one, say just for example I am deleting this part, so what it will do, just checking, it's giving the same. That means default 8, see the value of default uh, number of cluster is 8. Now if I want to change the number of cluster, instead of 8, say for example I want to make it 3, and if I want to run this, what it will give you, see the 3 different clusters. So 3 different colors, 3 different clusters. So like this way, if you go to the API model or API detail, then see number of iteration, by default it is 10. So number of inertia is init. So what is init? Number of times the k-mean algorithm will be run with different centroid seed. Maximum iteration 300 times. So there is another variable, important variable, that is init, the initial value of the centers. Okay, so that k-mean plus plus is the initial one, or the default one, but we can change it to random, ND-array, collable. So just for example, use random. So what you have to do, you have to do you have to write a comma, then you have to see the examples, or the hints is given for you. So you write init. Okay, then press enter, the equal sign will come, then write this colon and write random. So a randomized way of k-mean clustering will be used here, and the output will be generated this. Okay, so this will give you different so you can do your own experiment by using different variables, okay, one by one, for different methods and different levels, or the different packages, different modules available here. So see here, I am writing the heading. So these parts are important for writing any machine learning program. Okay, why? Because oh, you can ask me. Your Professor Fajria asked me that you need my Jupyter notebook, right? Hello, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how to access the Collab notebook.
Okay. Okay. So what I can do? How I can share it? Okay, I am uploading it in the Google Classroom. Okay. So this is the classroom, right? So I am downloading this one. So you can talk to me. Don't worry. Okay. I am a nice person. So whatever doubt you have, you can talk to me directly, so that because Professor Fajria is in a meeting, I think. So don't make him disturbed by my lecture. So I am downloading this here. So you can check it side by side instead of typing. Yeah, fine, not a problem. So many messages by Professor Fajria by using regarding this. Okay, is there anybody who is using who is not using Google Colab? Is there anybody? Please respond, so that I will send you that Python code by downloading it like this. Download Python. Maybe there will be some changes you need for this for running this code, but in general I'm just uploading this Jupyter notebook. Okay. So from Google Drive file, upload my drive, no, browse. So from download, yeah. So it is available. So see, it is available in the Google Classroom. So please go to your Google Classroom and download it. And if you don't know, if you know, I think how to upload this file in Google Colab. If you don't know, please, I am looking at your chat box. So please respond. If you don't know, I will show you that how to upload that Jupyter notebook into this Google Colab. Okay, I am waiting for few answer. Hello. So are you busy
Yes,
with
sir.
yeah.
I'm trying to download the notebook.
Okay, okay. Try to download and try to upload at the same time in the Google Colab. I am waiting for 5 minutes, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, and then we'll come again. Okay, so just see one by one that this so look at this, that this module name import class name. So you have module, and then under this module you have class. NumPy is a module. Under this you have a class that is called unique, and you have to use this for your purpose. And what is the purpose of unique here? Unique, for so for example, you have to click here and the source code will be downloaded or will be opened. Instead of that, I will show you how to go to the NumPy by clicking this NumPy website. So numpy.org, click on that, go to the documentation part, and then this NumPy API references, and there you will find all the methods and methods and classes and objects modules are available under this NumPy. Okay, so what is written here? Say for example, NumPy stands for numerical Python, so that's the short form of numerical Python. Okay, NumPy is a Python library used for working with arrays. So NumPy mainly gives you different operations what you can do on an array. There are general purpose operations are also available without NumPy, but Python the NumPy array are more flexible, more quicker than other default libraries available in Python. So that's why people prefer this NumPy library for doing operations in array. Okay. Now, why we will use NumPy? In NumPy, we have list that serve the purpose of array, but they are slow to process. Like as I said, in Python, you have list to that equivalent to array. Is not exactly equivalent, but similar synonymous with array. But here, this NumPy array is more than 50 times faster than traditional list. So see the fastness, the quickness. The array object in NumPy is called NDArray. It provides a list of supporting functions that make working with NDArray very easy. Okay. So NumPy does not depend on Python packages, so it is independent. Although there are some libraries for linear algebra, because NumPy is used for linear algebra, Fourier transformation, and other matrices. So matrix operations. So that's why it may depend on some other packages, but generally NumPy does not depend on other Python lab packages. Okay. So to check whether the NumPy is installed in your system or not, you have to check here. If it is not installed, it will be installed. If it is installed, so it will show you a requirement already satisfied statement. That means it is already installed in my system. Okay, so next statement here in the code, NumPy where, so that's fine. There is another, that is package or library available, that is called pandas. It is fast, powerful, flexible, and easy to use open source data analysis and manipulation tool. So this is the data analysis and manipulation tool available. Okay, so go to the Python panda packages link here. Okay, so for this, click on this documentation, or directly you can go to the API references here, and here you can find methods available for different different data analysis job. Say for example, what will be the easier one for the moment? Say plotting. Okay, if you click plotting, then there is different plotting functions are available: line plot, histogram, okay, density plot, box plot. These are the plot available here for plotting. Okay, there is another option that is called pickle. I will show you this pickle function later on in one example today. Okay, this will create a the jar file for Java. It's kind of things, if you don't if you have little bit of idea of jar, in case of Java language, then this pickle gives you similar kind of things. It creates an object of your model, okay, so that you can move this model to somewhere else and you can run it for your job. Okay, so later on I will show you how to use this pickle. So you can check whether this is installed in your system by using pip install. If it is already installed, then fine. If it is not, it will automatically install in your system. And to check the version of your Panda library, it's here. Another important function which I am going to use for showing your uh, for showing different model application is matplotlib. Basically this one will be used for exploration. Remember that two types. uh, what are the two types? The first one, so three types: exploration, explanation, and confirmation. Exploratory analysis, explanatory analysis, and confirmatory analysis. So this matplotlib or any kind of plotting is actually used for that exploratory analysis or explanatory analysis. Okay, so Matplotlib is a comprehensive library for creating static, animated, and intensive visualization in Python. So you can click this link here to know in detail about the libraries. So click on the documentation. Okay, there are different libraries are available. Where is the API here? So there are some example of matplotlibs are given. So you can look at these examples and check whether which kind of graph is satisfying your requirement. Okay, there are many such libraries. So this is never ending libraries are there. Sorry, never ending samples are there for you. See scatter plot. There are many other different types of plots are there. Maybe at the end you will find some 3D libraries are also available. Okay, 3D plottings, nice 3D plottings are available. So you have a data, you know the characteristics of the data, you have some requirement that you want this kind of information. So based on your data and the requirement, you can use any of these 3D libraries or 2D library, 2D plotting or 3D plotting, and you can explore the data in detail. Okay, yeah, any query?
No, sir.
Okay, so just to check whether this matplotlib is installed in your system, you can do one by one. Okay, yeah, first time it gives some error and now it is working fine. Now there is another one, important one, which we will use frequently in our other examples or in our other model creation, that is TensorFlow. Okay, TensorFlow is already installed in Google Colab. By default it is installed, so you don't have to install it. If you want to install again or if you want to update or recheck it, you can click this pip install TensorFlow. Okay, so the libraries are available in this link tensorflow.org. You can click and you can go to the web page here. Okay, so get started with TensorFlow. Okay, now there is API. So if you click on this API, so there are different versions are available, and which version API you want to see, you can click there. Okay, see there are many libraries are there at the left hand side. See this, there are many libraries are there. Okay, now for example, just a simple example, if I want to show you with my, let me see my code which I have used. TensorFlow I have not used here, maybe in some other example I have used. Okay, we'll show you later on. But see, for example, the data, click on the data. Okay, so this tf.data set. This will be used many times in my in my examples. I have used many times. So this 10 tf.data set will give you API, experimental API for building input pipelines. Okay, so there are data set represents a potentially large set of elements. So there are all these things are available. So just click on this data set. So see, there are some examples are given. Now you can use these examples, you can copy and paste in your Google Colab, and then you can check what the function is actually performing, or what is the output of that function, and you can habituate yourself with this TensorFlow. Okay, so why I am showing all these APIs here, remember it is not possible to show all these libraries by a human being uh, for any particular class or any particular year. Okay, so you have to understand the concept or problem, you have to understand your solution, and based on that how you can use whatever the packages somebody have not shown you, but if you want to use them for your requirement, then how you can use them, what is the syntax of that particular class, particular methods, particular library, packages, what is the name of it. For that you can, all these details you can find from all these libraries like TensorFlow, Matplotlib, or like this one Pandas, this NumPy, this scikit-learn or sklearn. All these things are available. API available, sir. API of all these things are available here. Okay. Now there is SciPy, another one. SciPy is a library among a machine learning enthusiast, stand for scientific computing tool for Python. So there is TensorFlow for machine learning, there is SciPy for machine learning, there is Matplotlib for plotting and machine learning, there is Panda for data analysis, there is NumPy for numerical analysis. Okay, there is scikit-learn for data analysis. So there are many things. Okay, there some are some concepts are interrelated, but something are specific to each of these things. That I will explain later on after this SciPy. So what is this SciPy? You will come to know about this SciPy many times uh, in your coding. Okay. So it contains different modules for optimization, linear algebra, integration, and statistical operations. So SciPy is basically a data science tool, whereas scikit-learn is a machine learning tool. So this is a data science tool, and this is a machine learning tool. Machine learning tool is for only machine learning algorithm, but data science tool, the difference between data science and machine learning. Data science include other operation, preparation, processing, to prepare and collect the data. Machine learning operation is to only to create a machine learning model. Although some operations are available, some functions are available for creating and storing the data, but basically for machine learning tool is scikit-learn, and data science tool is SciPy. Okay. So there are two components in the SciPy stack and SciPy library. And SciPy stack has several packages: NumPy, SciPy, Matplotlib, IPython, SymPy, Pandas. All these things are like packages in this SciPy library. So you have a library at the top, then you have packages, the like NumPy, SciPy, Matplotlib, Python, and under these packages you have different class, methods, and all these things. So what is the differences or similarities between this NumPy, SciPy, Panda, Matplotlib, or scikit-learn? NumPy is a library for efficient, faster use of array computation. Okay, so NumPy, when you will use, you need a array computation. That time you need NumPy. NumPy provides vectorized mathematical function, but SciPy provides a large menu of libraries for scientific computation. Different scientific computation like integration, interpolation, signal processing, linear algebra, statistical operations, all these things. SciPy provides low-level mathematical and scientific functions. SciPy is built upon the infrastructure of NumPy. So NumPy is a library, Build upon that library, SciPy is created. Matplotlib is a library for graphics and visualizations. Matplotlib is built and designed to work with NumPy. So you have NumPy to handle the array. Now if you want to plot that array, you can use this Matplotlib. If you want to do some scientific operation on that array, you have to use SciPy. Okay. Now the Panda library is good for analyzing tabular data. So you have array, now you have tabular, that is matrix, ND array. Okay. So data analysis, statistics, visualization. Scikit-learn is a collection of advanced machine learning algorithm. Scikit-learn provides high-level machine learning functions. Scikit-learn is also built upon NumPy and SciPy. Okay. So when do we use each of them? If you want to understand the data, you have Panda, data analysis job. Okay. So Panda for understanding the data. If you want to use this data to train a machine learning algorithm, use scikit-learn or sklearn. If you are doing some other scientific operation, use SciPy. If you want to plot that particular data, you use Matplotlib, and all of these use NumPy. So you will need to use this NumPy for creating the data structure. So you have a data, you want to create the data structure, use NumPy, and on that data structure you want to use some analysis on the data, use Panda. You want to plot it, use Matplotlib. You want to perform some machine learning operation, use scikit-learn. You want to perform some other scientific operation instead of machine learning, then use SciPy. Okay. Now the Keras, we will not touch these things, but just for your information, Keras is a deep learning and neural network library written in Python. You can find the detail of it here in keras.io. Okay. The API doc is here. There are many examples are given also under this, like these code examples are given. So just if you see how deep learning works, so see all of our examples are written as Jupyter Notebook and can be run in one click in Google Colab. So just the way I have given you the my Jupyter Notebook, the same way you can click it anywhere, any of these links. You can see view in Colab. You can directly go to your Colab library and you can run one by one to get how the deep learning actually works. So that's why I just have shown you how this works and how you can use this for your understanding, for better understanding of deep learning by a self learning way. Okay. So and the Jupyter Notebook, you know all these things. Jupyter Notebook, the extension is .ipnb. So that means IP for IPY, right? IPY or IPYNB. So IPY is for IPython. IPython is the project, the parent project. So that's the IPython project, and NB the notebook, stands for notebook. So IPY node NB is the extension and the meaning of this extension. Okay. Under this Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter, you have different other product: Jupyter Lab, Notebook, Console, Qt Console, Hub. If you want to know in detail, you have these links. You can go and you can check it. Okay. So it's already 1 hour 30 minutes. So just for a quick reference, I'm closing all these things. This has already been explained. Okay, close. Now I will show you. Just tell me, do you have any idea of loading data into your Colab? Just few response, 1 or 2 response. You want me to share this code also? I am sharing this code also. You can keep it for your future reference, because this will be used several times to download or to upload, download, and to use the dataset, any dataset, whatever we will use for our experiment. So now I'm sharing it here. Okay, so now going to that part here. So if you have a data set in any format, so there are several ways of using that data set into Google Colab. So for example, you have the data set in your computer system, so you want to use that, so you have to upload it into Google Colab, or you have to upload into Google Drive and use that data into your program, or you can directly use from GitHub. If you have GitHub account, your data is in your GitHub account. I think you all of you have a GitHub account, because the last person, the lecture person, have shown you different concept on using GitHub. Okay, so how you can use the data present in your GitHub and use it in your coding. And then if your data is in Google Drive, then how you can load it into Google Colab, that has been explained. So in this case there are several ways are there. I will show you one approach. There is another approach, but that is not working here, so I will not explain this not working part, but it is written here. You can check or you can correct it for later purpose later on. Okay, so what is this? So if you go to this Colab, this folder symbol is visible for everybody, this mouse cursor.
Yes, it's visible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So click there, and upon connecting, unable to connect to the runtime, reconnect. What happened? Oh, so just refreshing the page. Yeah, let's try to connect it again. Yeah, it's connected. So now if I go to this folder, see here, there are some sample dataset is already present, and there are some files are available here. So I am terminating this session first. It will be better because some pre-existing files are showing. Yeah, I reconnect. Yeah, now check this folder. See, you have only this sample data set. Okay, now if you have some data set into this folder, you can directly use this df. You can directly use by using .read csv function of this Panda library. Okay, for Panda, remember Panda library for data analysis. So Python data analysis. So you create an object of that. So you can rename this Panda as PD. You access the read csv function by using pd.read csv and give the path, and you store that in a data frame, that is df. Okay, and print the data frame by using df1. So if you click this one to run it, whatever is stored in this data, you can see it in a data frame. So this is the easiest way to use a data set in your Python program. Now if you have a file, say for example in my system I have a download folder here, and I have I have a desktop here, and in this desktop I have a file, say for example life satisfaction.csv file is here. Okay, in this desktop folder. Now I want to use that desktop folder for my experiment. Okay, that data set in the desktop folder for my experiment. For what I have to do, I have to write this from google.colab import file.upload a function, it will show you an option, choose file. Okay, so if you click this, it will give you a browser window. From there you have to click the desktop, go to that particular folder and click this particular file, and it will be uploaded. When it will be uploaded, see, it will come into this place. Just wait for a few minutes. Yeah, see, the file which is present in my system in this particular folder has been uploaded into this Google Colab storage. Okay, so you can now directly use this. You can make this as a data frame by reading just like this way. You can run this. See, the file has been loaded into a data frame and it is clearly displaying into the, or clearly you can now you use this data frame for your experiment. Okay, so the data frame now, okay, your Professor Fajria is in queue, so just finishing this part. After that she will take care of the session. So loading data from the Colab, so this from the GitHub library. Okay, so this is a simple link. Your GitHub link will be copied here, making a variable URL, pass this URL with read CSV to the read CSV function, and then it will give you a URL, sorry, the data frame. So since the link is not present, I am not running this one, but if you have a link, you can directly type it or paste it here and you can run it, it will give you the data frame. Okay, now the important or the complex part of this loading is from Google Drive. Say for example, I have, this is my Google storage system. Okay, so this is the folder where I have different CSV file is there. Okay, say for example, I want to use or I want to load this fish.csv file. So you have to install that PyDrive, or you have to copy paste this function to your code. So this will import all the required library for doing that. After doing this, you have to type this piece of code which is authenticate and create the PyDrive client. So that means this will authenticate your drive and will be able, then after that you will be able to access your file. So for that, what it will happen, if you run this piece of code, it will give you a link. You have to click this link. Okay, and then you have to click your Gmail account where your data is present. So I am using my official email account, Gmail account, and I am clicking the allow button. Then it will give you, please copy this code, switch to the application and paste it. So I am copying by clicking this and pasting it here, entering this. Now everything is fine. Now you can access any file from your Google Drive into your Python or into your Google Colab system. Now go to your folder, open that particular file you want to use, click on this get link. Okay, click on this, it will show you this window. So now you have to copy this one. So copy this link and done. Okay, so now you copy this. I am copying this one. Okay, now you run this. Now check this portion, this left hand side of the window. Okay, so I have written xclara.csv. So a temporary file calling xclara.csv will be created here. It's a temporary file. Whenever you will restart the system again, it will not be present. You have to again reload it. Okay, so now this this fish.csv file is stored into this xclara.csv and stored in a data frame df. Okay, so the df there was this, but now the df is this. Okay, so this is the way, this is I think 4 types of different ways you can use your data into your Python program and to make a data frame of it, and then later on you can use the data frame for future experiment. Okay, so that's the coding till now. That's the lectures till now. In the next lecture, I will show you regarding this clustering examples and regression example with some explanation. So since the next session will be on regression, okay, I will just show you that. Okay, leave it to. So if you have any query, you can ask me, or I will hand it over to Professor Fajria now.
Excuse me, doctor.
Yeah, please.
Okay. For next week's class, is it okay if you upload provide us the notebook earlier so that we can like go through first
Okay.
notebook?
Okay.
Thank you.
Like this, the thing I have done right now, I will give you earlier. Okay. Another thing is, do you need do you need my slide? I will share my slide in PDF format to you. Okay, in the Google Classroom.
I think they need it. Yeah, they need.
Yeah, and also the lecture session I have recorded it, so I will share it to you in the Google Classroom. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, if you want to hear it again, and if you have any further query for the future, you can also ask the same question. Whatever the topic I have explained today, you can ask later on also after a little bit of study. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Anybody?
Okay, sir. Okay, Zikra, do you have any question?
Maybe I have a question.
Okay. Go
I
ahead.
still confused what the purpose, or I still confused what the goal from this subject. Because the previous weeks we talk about the big data and we talk about the big data architecture, and today we back to talk about the data preprocessing. We back talk about machine learning. So I doesn't see what the pets, what's the syllabus pets. Yeah, the purpose in our subject.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me show you my this slide. This share you with you. Just wait. Let me share. I will clear your doubt that your question. However, I have understood that it is not clear to you regarding the content of the lecture or the course, right? Professor Fajria, is it correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, see, this is the whole content of the course.
Can you see on the screen, Zikra?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so the whole content of this special topic is number 1, 2, 3 until 4.
Yeah. So, in the number 1 and 2, whatever has been covered till now by professor from Austria is actually tells you regarding the what is big data, different definition, different properties, different varieties, different V's, velocity, variety, and different 4. Yeah, there are 4 V's are there. So that characteristics has been explained into this introduction to big data part. Okay, and then there is big data modeling and management system. So how you can model your big data and store it into a system. How far I have seen your lecture given by the professor from Vienna, I have seen that there are different systems he has explained how you can store them in the database or in a management system of your big data. Okay, now in the next lecture, that is introduction to technology of big data, there will be explanations on different technologies which will be useful for handling your big data. Different kind of handling, there are several, like one, this machine learning is one way of handling big data, right? How you can generate information from that. So this topic, this machine learning with big data will give you some idea on descriptive and predictive topics, that how you can use your big data to generate information on a descriptive and predictive aspect. Okay, so the first 1 and 2 will give you the knowledge on the data. Second one is way of handling the data, and the third one is doing some operation on the data, and operation specifically the machine learning operation. Okay, so that's the way the course content has been modeled. So is clear, or you need more explanation?
It is already clear, or you need some explanation more? So actually for today, you will have about introduction to technology of big data, but the lecture which is from Malaysia, he couldn't have the schedule for today because there are some other appointments. So that's why instead of number 3, so now we are jumping to number 4 first.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so we are on number 4.
Okay, I understand his question now. The missing link.
Yeah.
Missing link.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
I
So
confused like it's
yes.
have a wall.
Suddenly jumping to number 4. Yeah,
Yeah.
because of the lecture
Thank you.
for number 3, he couldn't have the schedule. He couldn't have time for today's schedule. So next week it is not ours, but will be the third part of this lecture, which is the lecture from Malaysia. I think next week, and next another week it will be me and Professor Kartik as well.
So next 3 lecture will be done by Professor from Malaysia,
Yeah.
and on November 26th, I think, how far I can remember, is my next lecture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I will explain you the remaining part of this content. And
Yeah, so-
other lecture is on December. Remaining lectures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any doubt?
Okay, thanks for your explanation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe later I will send some like how to say the questionnaire for them. Maybe
Yeah.
in there.
That is waiting. I have many exercise to do in the class and also at home. But today is the introduction part, so it's a rest day.
Yeah, machine learning will be about 5 weeks because this is very big coverage, I think. Yeah, so if for example more than 5 weeks, I think we will need some time for exercise at home maybe. But you still can ask Professor Kartik if, for example, you have any question, or to George, or maybe to Professor from Malaysia as well. Because at the end of this course, you have to have a project, like a mini project. And then so you need to understand from the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. Okay? So if you don't have, for example, if you have something in mind and then you want to ask us, so please ask. Maybe in Google Classroom, maybe in WhatsApp group, everything is okay. You can contact us in the WhatsApp group or anything you like. Okay, so
hand it over to you. Professor, so now it is your turn. You take it. The control will be taken by you.
Yeah, but the time is already been up because some students they have some other schedule. So
I can do. I will create a like Google form with some set of questions, and before starting the next lecture, 10 minutes time for having answer of 5 or 10 questions.
Yeah, I think like pre and post test. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will try to develop something.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then I think our session will be ended soon. I think it's already, the time is up. Thank you very much, Professor Kartik. I apologize that I have some meeting in here.
It's okay.
So